This is love, death, grief, and everything in between.
It was a Saturday morning before 7 a.m. It was rainy and cloudy outside. She had passed away, and I sat there staring at her in the hospital bed. I remember the chaplain came in and said he felt like the sky had opened up and was crying just for my mom. I said, "You needed to know my mom a little bit better to understand that it wasn't crying for her passing. It was welcoming her." Because you see, a cloudy, gray, rainy day was my mother's favorite kind of day. So it was appropriate that this was the day that she passed. It was March 23rd, 2024. As I'm recording this, it's barely been 6 months since she passed.
And it was fast, and it was unexpected. And at the moment when it happens, you're in denial. And there's a feeling like you're outside of your body and it's not real. Because how can this person that you love so much be gone? There are the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. For most people, I feel like you really do go through all of that. But that day was 100% pure denial. You see, my mom was a survivor. She went through cancer treatment 7 years before. She had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And this is after the fact that 2 years prior, she had an autoimmune disorder that caused her to have a surgery that took half of her liver. They kind of thought the autoimmune in that moment was attacking cells that were going to be cancer in her body and preemptively causing her to have liver cancer. And she got through that surgery. If anything, my mom was a fighter. She was courageous. She didn't look it from the outside because everyone always said she's so sweet and she's so kind and she's so even-mannered. I knew the fighter. So when she got through the liver surgery and then got diagnosed 2 years later with ovarian cancer, she cried for a day. And she tried to process for about a week. And then she leaned into what she was going to have to do, which was having surgery for hysterectomy, 3+ months of chemotherapy every week, and basically fighting. And I wish I would have done research then. More research. I had looked up stuff about what you do after cancer, foods, exercise, what you can do to basically help stave off any cells that are in your body and help yourself remain and stay healthy. I had looked up that, but my mom was stubborn and she was going to eat what she wanted to eat and she was going to do what she wanted to do. It's kind of like I'm in this sandwich generation where I had a son I was raising and taking care of, and then I had my mom who I also wanted to take care of. But our parents, they get older and they're stubborn and they don't want to listen. And how dare my child be telling me I should be eating better or I should be exercising more or anything regarding my life, you know? And that was part of her personality and her attitude about everything. This last time, I started noticing that she was breathing heavy and it would be like she ran a marathon, just walking from one side of the house to the other side of the house. We would go places, and one of my best friends had commented and even said, she sounds like she ran a marathon. She's having trouble breathing, just getting in and out of the car. And I had said to Mom, you have to get into your doctors. She had this team of doctors from her first round of cancer. I'm like, you've got to get back in there. And they had been monitoring her. She had gone back to her home in Virginia and wanted to do work there and was kind of dragging her feet about getting back to California. You see, she lives part-time with me and she lived part-time in Virginia. And we wanted her back for the holidays in 2023. The thing is, it's so hard when you see your parents and you realize they're getting older. I mean, in a way, it kind of sucks because it's kind of like, oh crap, I'm getting older too. And it makes you reevaluate your own life and look at what you have going on and maybe some things that you need to change for yourself. But if anything, it's like you look at your parents. And for me, I remember my mom, driving me to the mall. I remember my mom taking me to see my first musical. I remember so many good things. So to see them getting older is just really hard to deal with. Because you always have this elevated view of your parent. And you remember them healthy and robust and ready to take on the world. At least that's how I remember my mom. But she's always been stubborn. So she got into this area of life where she just didn't want to travel by herself. She was worried about getting through the airport. She was worried about traveling. She started not wanting to drive as much because my mom knew she didn't have the reflexes and the reactions should someone swerve in her lane or have to stop unexpectedly really fast. And I respect her for that. But it got harder because she didn't want to travel by herself. So I started observing and noticing more about it being harder for her to do things. Her breath was one of the biggest things that was a key factor that made me say she needs to get back to the doctors. So my boyfriend Phil and I got plane tickets. He was like, we're getting her back here. She's going to be with us for the holidays, but she's going to get into her doctors. We brought her back, and like most of healthcare, for a lot of people, you call to make an appointment and they can see you in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, sometimes 3 months. You're waiting to get an appointment, which is ridiculous and stupid, especially when you've got an underlying illness or a disease or have had cancer that needs to be regularly monitored. There needs to be some type of exception. She had gotten an appointment. It was after the holidays. By the time she had gotten in to the appointment, she was having trouble sitting up and she couldn't get comfortable and she was having pain in her right side. And immediately my mind went to the liver because we had had issues with that before. The scary thing is, one of our two dogs had picked up on my mom's cancer when she had it 7 years ago and didn't leave her side. The dog started laying with my mom and following her around. So before my mom even made it to the doctor, it's like I knew it was not going to be good. Here's the other thing about when you're trying to be an advocate and be the one there for your parent or loved one that are going through a medical crisis. The problem is they go into the doctor. For my mom, being an older adult, she would go in and the doctor would be like, oh, how long has this been going on? And she's like, oh, about a week. So I looked at her doctor. I said, she's not telling you the truth right now. This has not been going on a week. She has been short and out of breath that we've noticed for the last 2.5 months. So she is not telling you 100% what is going on. So that's why I say when you have a loved one, especially if they are older and they are having medical problems and are going to a doctor, if you can be an advocate to be there with them, especially if you've observed what they've been going through, or even just like been there with them or talked to them on the phone. When it's a big appointment, go. Go with questions. Because frankly, that's the one thing that also pissed me off is like, there's these doctors and they want to fix everybody. And there's a bit of a God complex, I find, with a lot of them. And the thing is, we pay a shit ton of money to people in the medical profession. Even if you have insurance, I've looked at stuff and been like, you've got to effing be kidding me. That's a buttload of money going to these people. So to walk into an office and be treated like you don't know what you're talking about, or that you don't have any right to ask a question, or that you're overreacting is bullshit. If anything, go in, ask questions, whether it's for yourself, your loved one. You need to. You need to be the advocate for yourself. You need to be the advocate for your family, the advocate for your loved one. For me, I wanted to be the advocate for my mother. So once the doctor realized how serious it had been and that she was having trouble sitting up, they sent her for the MRI and an ultrasound, which was going to be at the beginning of the week. We went in on, I think, a Thursday. And they had put in the orders. We had made the appointment. She was going to be in on Monday. The doctor said, if anything changes, please get to the emergency room because they can go ahead and expedite everything. Well, Saturday rolled around and my mother was in such immense pain that we had to take her to the emergency room where they ran tests and they admitted her based on levels in her blood work, an MRI and CT scan and everything that they looked at and ultrasounds. They wanted to do the liver biopsy. And once they did the liver biopsy, they found that her ovarian cancer had come back, and that's where it basically decided to live. It was in her liver. This is love, death, grief, and everything in between. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell to stay up to date on all new videos.
Until next time, lean into your grief and accept the tears whenever they decide to come. But above all else, embrace the love and the laughter and the memories that you're going to find along the way.